Is the federal government, quote unquote, obliged to consult you? The final report on this Indigenous voice opens up by saying that, quote, an Indigenous voice will overcome their present level of exclusion from decision making. Are they excluded more than other Australians? I'd like someone to consult me about the national curriculum, about propaganda in the classroom, about the level of government spending and debt, but I don't get consulted because we elect people to represent us. There are 11 Indigenous people in the Parliament. Why, in our liberal democracy, should some citizens be treated differently from others based on race? What would happen if Parliament overrode the views of the voice? Oh, the courts would go mad. It is impossible to believe that those who call themselves politically conservative fall into line with this stuff. Let's be sure it's intended here. The report to Parliament says, and I quote, the National Voice would provide the mechanism to ensure Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have a direct say on any national laws, policies and programs affecting them, unquote. But other Australians don't get a direct say. As Jacinta Price says, not all Indigenous people are a homogenous group. I understand the voice is intended to be about 24 people. No one knows how they're to be selected and who will vote and whether they'll pay their own way or be on parliamentary salaries, whether there'll be an electoral roll for the voice based on race, where only one race can vote. How does that small group of people, the voice, believe it can realistically represent the feelings of all Aboriginal people? As I've said, there's no excuse for any federal parliamentarian to be ignorant of the issues. We know they don't read much. Many of them take their backbencher salary of $217,000 and merely nod and say yes when they're told to. But the research video that's gone to every federal parliamentarian demonstrates how the voice will permanently divide Australians by race. It explains that a fundamental principle of the Australian way of life is that every Australian gets the same say over our nation's future. No matter your race, ethnicity, religion or gender, your voice matters, and it matters equally. Is there a federal politician, especially amongst the coalition, who would dispute that? But of course, big corporates, many in the media, sporting codes, civic organisations and universities don't even want to debate the issue that inserting an Indigenous voice into the Constitution would provide separate political and legal rights to one group of Australians based on their race. That was once called apartheid. It represents the kind of division of Australian society that we're supposed to be strenuously seeking to repair. It's unarguable that just asking the question of Australian people at a referendum will permanently divide Australians. It is impossible to understand how any responsible Australian could argue that a yes vote won't lead to the establishment of a divisive, race-based component in our parliament, worse than that, enshrined in our Constitution. Again, as the IPA have correctly explained to every federal parliamentarian, to argue that we can't make up our mind until there are more details is to concede that there are details which would make constitutionally enshrined racial division acceptable, even desirable. Put simply, to say no to the voice is to say yes to racial equality. But more importantly, if you don't know what this will mean to Australians, then like me, you must vote no.